We're going to talk real quick about the Pac-12, and we're basically going to put our blessings on him. And we're going to say rest in peace to the Pac-12 and break down the events that have gone on over the past few months that have led basically to this, like, to the situation they're in now. And then, Strizzy, I want to ask you what you think is going to happen next. But I want to go through this breakdown real quick. I just thought it was fun. I messed around with this because I was like, I want to put this visual out there so we can see exactly what's happened. But really, it started with the Big Ten, and they courted USC and UCLA. They decided to go as a pair to the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. So the Pac-12 went from 12 down to 10, and you know, they were trying to get their bigger revenue share by going to the Big Ten and create a bigger market for themselves. And also, partly sneakily, they were trying to kind of leave the Pac-12 and still take their recruits with them. They didn't want any other Pac-12 teams coming to the Big Ten. So then the Big 12 stepped in. They started doing some exploratory talks. You know, they talked to Coach Prime, and Prime is all about the money, man, in the bigger stage. So Colorado stepped out, and they made their move to go to the Big 12. All the while, the Pac-12 was negotiating the next football deal for these teams that will be starting after this upcoming season. And, you know, more and more is coming out about, you know, the Pac-12 is dealing with Apple and all this other stuff, and that the deal is not that great. And, you know, these SEC teams are making $40 million a year, and they're not going to make anywhere near that. And they're going to be at a disadvantage in NIL. So as more and more started happening, Colorado was like, all right, we're out. We're going to go ahead and make this move happen. And the Pac-10 that was left was thinking they were going to be stable, and they were going to just try to maybe get another deal, but maybe a little bit less since they didn't have some of their big players. Well, the Big 12 kept recruiting, and they wanted to bring over U of A because they wanted to make it even. And so U of A is like, all right, cool, we're down. We'll go ahead and skip, because meanwhile, there's no word coming from the Pac-12 on what their revenue is going to be like. Well, then the Arizona commission of their school stepped in and was like, we want ASU and U of A to be together. Yeah. They should stick together. This is a pairing. This is a rivalry. So here comes ASU. They're in Big 12's like, we'll take ASU and we'll take Utah so we can stay even. So we don't have an uneven amount of teams. And Utah is basically like one of the better players. Like, they won the Pac-12 last year. Yep. So then now we got the next step is Oregon and Washington. They're like, dang, we're not going to be left over here with these part of the Pac-6. You know?
I know.
Because every time a team leaves, the money keeps going down. The money keeps going down. So the Big Ten opened up their exploratory talks, and in less than 48 hours, they decided they're going to take Oregon and Washington, which were the best and the most dominant schools, and kind of in a similar region. Because again, they're trying to pair these teams together so they have like a traveling buddy kind of thing. Yeah. So at this point, the Pac-12 has 4 teams left, and the latest news is that the ACC is getting involved. And even though this makes no sense, because the ACC is literally the Atlantic coast, they are talking to Cal and Stanford, and it seems as if the next move is going to be Cal and Stanford joining the ACC, leaving the Pac-12 with Oregon State and Washington State, 2 teams that have their own history, but 2 teams that aren't, you know, one of these teams on the right-hand side anymore. No. I think that I don't know what's going to happen here. I think that the Pac-12 brand still has value, or still did up until last week. So maybe they go out and try to grab a bunch of teams, like a Boise State, like whoever, you know, I don't know, whoever that they can grab, like a Colorado State, and try to build it back up and use the Pac-12 name. But what I think might happen, though, would be kind of sneaky is the Big West and the Pac-12 do some kind of a merger where they bring in basically that whole league and create like a different, like a Big West or something, or a Pac West.
That'd be the smartest move to do, in my opinion. I think.
Yeah.
Like I said, try to get Boise State's always kind of. I mean, I know they moved from the WAC a while ago. You know what I'm saying? But you know, this would be a bigger, even bigger division than they're in right now. I mean, it's kind of,
and they're good.
It's falling apart. You know what I'm saying? But you know, I feel like them, and you know, I don't want to say Hawaii, because like I remember like in the WAC it was always like Boise and Hawaii, right? They were always going at each other. Right. Literally, like whoever had the one loss usually came from one of them. You know what I'm saying? When they played each other. Yeah. So you know, Hawaii have the same team that they were all those years ago. But like you said, I think that's probably the bigger move. Some type of like combination, and maybe create at least like the Big West or something like that. You know what I mean? probably the best idea because like there's not much you can really do right now. I know ACC hasn't acquired Cal and Stanford yet, but you know if they do, what are you going to do with a 2-team? You know what I'm saying? Division, like
yeah,
it can't work. It can't work.
Like we'll just alternate. We'll show up at your place this week. You come to our place next week. Back and forth. Like what you know?
Yeah, ain't no way. So, yeah, I don't know, man, but it is kind of crazy. The shakeup has definitely been nuts. I really do like though how like SC, USC, and UCLA went over together. You know, they're never playing each other, and it's going to be kind of crazy. You know, what I'm saying next season or whatever it is when these teams move over.
Yeah, exactly. This upcoming season will be the last season basically of the Pac-12 as we know it. It will be kind of the farewell tour, if you will. And I think it is wild. I think things are happening fast, but I think definitely, and we said it right when the NIL thing really opened up. We were like, look, like college football will not be the same. Like it is no longer the same as it was. The tradition, the history, it's just that. It's history. Like it is in the past now. Because it's all about the money. It's all about generating that revenue. And now that they have to pay the players, colleges are greedy. They still want their same cut. So now they're like, we got to make even more money because we got to actually cut in the players now.
Yeah, exactly.
When before they were just rolling in the dough, you know, and not worrying about that part of it. Now, you know, they have to stay competitive. They have to bring the money behind it. And it's all about these TV revenue deals. And like, I think you're going to end up with literally like 3 or 4 giant conferences for the high level, you know, for the top 50, basically, of college football. And it kind of sucks. It's kind of sad, to be honest, because it also shows, like, you know, these organizations, right, that ran things, they had it sweet before. Like the Pac-12, whoever runs the Pac-12, you know, like 4 years ago, like they weren't doing nothing, like, and they weren't tripping. Like they were literally just cashing checks. And they don't really do that much except for like organize a few things, set the schedule. Like when it comes down to it, like Oregon State and Washington State, or, you know, even Cal and Stanford that are still there, it's like they're looking at them like, you guys left us out to dry. Like you didn't make those deals that you were supposed to. You didn't put the structure in place. There's no guarantees that people are just going to sit around and accept that. And now, you know, they have options. And with these super divisions, they were like, yo, we out, you know. But it is kind of sad that you could see basically like something that has like a long honored tradition basically just dissolve within a matter of like
just gone. Like they out of there. So it is pretty crazy.
Anthony says Oregon and Washington State will mess with the Mountain West. ACC is talking about Stanford and Cal. Yeah, that's so weird. So it'd be like Atlantic Coast, but they're going to be on the Pacific Coast. Like that just doesn't. It's just so weird.
That's going to be so hard for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the travel.
Exactly. The travel is going to be so difficult.
And not to mention that these are for all sports. So it's not just the football money. Like I think that's the thing. Like the football is what everybody thinks of, and that's what is like out front. But it's like, dang, if you're on the swimming team, if you're on the tennis team, and you play in San Francisco, and now you have to go to Virginia for like a weekend tournament or whatever, like that's just so crazy. But it's not about that, the academics. It's about the money. It's pretty crazy though. Mom says, I remember how prestigious it was when ASU and U of A joined the Pac-10. Yeah, most definitely. Like that was a big step up for them. And now they out. Like, but the Big 12 is cool too, though. So like I get it from their standpoint. They're like, oh man, but it's just different, you know, and especially when you're like literally.
It's gonna be kind of like how, you know, the SEC is split up into different, you know, SEC, you know, South, SEC, what, you know, like it's gonna be kind of like that, you know, as these divisions get bigger and bigger. And I think part of it too is it's gonna make the playoffs look more interesting, because, you know, the playoffs now they're gonna be expanded. You know what I mean? It's gonna be a lot more than just 6 teams or whatever, or 4 teams. I'm bad, 4 teams going in. You know what I mean? True. So I think that not tournament, but, you know, that bracket, that the road to the championship is going to make things a lot more interesting. Because, like you said, now it's going to be basically like three divisions, right? You know, it's definitely going to be these guys in the SEC, and wins are going to matter. I think so much. I don't know more, because more players are going to be getting in, but like it's definitely going to change things. And I think that's kind of why they're also, you know, I think that plays a big role too into like why they're moving out of these conferences. Like you got to be able to play better schools. You know what I mean? Because when you're not playing, like SEC can lose a game and still be in, contention for our championship, right?
Right.
A lot of other schools can't. They have to go undefeated. You know what I'm saying? So, but if you're in a stronger division where you're more likely to lose a game or two, it does make it easier for you to get those higher seedings or to be, eligible for bigger bowl games. You know what I mean? So I think that puts a role in it as well.
Most definitely. Like, it's crazy though that we had the Power Five, and it's funny you mentioned the playoffs because I am interested in what happens with that because the Pac-12 technically has like an automatic qualifier as the Pac-12 champion to get into the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So maybe Oregon State wants to stay. Maybe they're like, hey, grab us a couple teams and we'll just be the champs. You know what I'm saying? Over here, and get into the playoff every year. But I wonder if like they could lose their automatic bid based on like the strength of their conference or the perceived strength of their conference. Who knows? Because it seems like everything's out the window. Like they're just gonna keep making this thing up as they go. So, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Anthony West says, "Yeah, I have an NFC and AFC with the power schools."
Right.
That's almost it's almost kind of what it's like already. Pop says Big 12 is gonna be really good after the SEC. Who is second now? Crazy change, all about the money. Yeah, for sure. That's a good question. I think it is the Big 12.
I think it is too.
But the crazy thing is like they're losing Oklahoma and Texas too. So like I keep factoring them in. So
true.
I don't know. Actually, it's probably the Big 10 because they got Ohio State, Michigan, USC. Like that's pretty gangster.
Yeah, you're right. You forgot they don't have Texas and Oklahoma anymore. So it probably is. USC was really good last year. I think they had a loss or whatever. I think So I'm Ohio State, Michigan, like you just mentioned.
Dang, Mom says SEC and Big 10 have 16 of the top 20 preseason with the dogs.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So those are definitely the big divisions. But yeah, I definitely wanted to break that thing down though and do the visual so we can kind of see like how that changes and how lonely Oregon State and Washington State are. But we'll see. I think they'll have to figure it out. But they're definitely not going to be signing any deals for the TV revenue. You know what I'm saying? The TV rights like anytime soon. Like so that'll be crazy. Kelly is saying, did you say this goes into effect? So this is going to go into effect basically after next year. This upcoming year is like the last year where all these teams are signed up, but then UCLA and USC are going after this year for sure. Colorado, U of A, all the Big 12s are after this year for sure because that's when Texas and Oklahoma are joining the SEC. Cal and Stanford is still kind of proposed, so I should have had an asterisk on that, but we'll see. I have a feeling that announcement is going to happen before we meet again. So